So it's officially just over 2 years since my husband and I completed on our first home, and we used a 95% mortgage in order to purchase our first home. So in today's video, I decided that I would do a discussion, a video all about my experience with a 95% mortgage. 2 years later, do I regret what I did? Am I happy what I did? And yeah, I thought it'd be interesting for people, especially for those of you who are considering 95% mortgages. So about 9 months ago now, I did do a video all about 95% mortgages. I broke down why ultimately we made the decision to go with a 95% mortgage and all the different things we had to weigh up and consider before doing it. Because as you may already know, people generally talk against 95% mortgages, and there's some good reasons for that. But in short, if someone was to ask me today, do I regret going for a 95% mortgage? Would I do things differently now? The answer is I absolutely do not regret getting a 95% mortgage, and I absolutely wouldn't do things differently now. And I'll talk about that why throughout the rest of the video. If you are new here, then my name is Deandra and I go by the name of Finance D because I like to talk about personal finances. I do this for fun. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't work in the finances industry. It's just a personal hobby. Yes, quite weird, but it's a hobby. And so I'm just sharing all the things that I have learned, I'm implementing, I'm doing on my way to building wealth. And I hope the things that I'm learning and I'm sharing with you guys will also help you on your journey to wealth building. So if you do like this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe. Thank you so much for getting me to 3,000 subscribers. It's incredible. I'm excited and I feel very, very fortunate to have 3,000 of you guys here with me, and lots more to come throughout the rest of the year. So why was I advised against a 95% mortgage, or why are people generally advised against 95% mortgages? The first thing is the fact that you get a higher interest rate. So higher interest rate just means that your monthly mortgage payments will be higher because you're paying more interest. And so that is probably one of the biggest negative aspects for 95% mortgages. The interest rate is higher because according to a lender, or from a lender's perspective, you're a bit more risky of a person than somebody who has a larger cash deposit. So the interest rates are higher. So that's one of the reasons people advise against 95% mortgages. Another reason is because you have less offers available to you. So you may have remembered a couple of months ago, they completely took 95% mortgages off the market. Actually, it was more than a couple of months ago. It was like a year ago. And they've only just recently started to come back on the market, which is a really great thing in my opinion. But yeah, they took them off the market because again, they were considered the more riskier types of mortgages. And so in general, not every bank offers 95% mortgages. Generally, they start at around 90% mortgages and they go all the way down, but not everywhere offers 95%. So that means you have less options available to you. And the third reason that people advise against 95% mortgages is because you run a higher risk of falling into negative equity. And negative equity just means that you owe more than the house is actually worth, which is not a place that you want to be in. So that is another reason why people advise against 95% mortgages. And I would say all of this makes sense. But if you want to know all my counter arguments, or not counter arguments, but things that you can try to do to mitigate some of those risks, and you can't always get around the risk. There's always a risk, isn't there? When anything like this, there's always a risk. But if you want to know a bit more about that, then I talk about that in my previous 95% mortgage video. So I'm not going to go into much detail in this one about that. But I thought it was important to talk about why people have this negativity towards 95% mortgages. Now, the reason why myself and my husband chose a 95% mortgage, despite all of those reasons, is because we couldn't save up a big enough deposit to get into that next bracket of a 90% mortgage at the same time as saving for a wedding and at the same time as saving for a honeymoon. So we actually, from the time we got engaged to the time we got married, was pretty much a year, bang on, like a year and 1 month. And in that year, we saved for a wedding, a honeymoon, and a house deposit, pretty much within that year, give or take a few months. So we couldn't do it. Simply, we couldn't do it. And we didn't want to be renting that long after we got married. We really wanted to buy a house. It was a personal preference for us. And so we knew that if we wanted to get onto the property ladder sooner rather than later, a 95% mortgage was something that we had to consider. The other reason why we chose a 95% mortgage was because neither of us believed that the housing market was going to crash, as people were saying at the time. So people were saying, oh, there's going to be a correction in the housing market, like it can't keep going up. At some point, the price is going to go down. Just wait for it to go down. And as you probably have seen in the past 2 years, that never happened. Not to say that it won't ever happen, but it didn't happen in the last 2 years. So we didn't feel like it was going to happen in those 2 years. So we just thought, you know what? We just need to get on the property ladder. Once we're on, we can work our way around. After that, we just need to get on the property ladder. And so in connection with that, we just really thought that if we waited 2 years, which is what we considered waiting 2 to 3 years, renting and saving up in that time. The other concern that we had was that the market growth of houses would outpace what we were able to save. So we could continue saving, but if the housing market was going up quicker than our savings, then we could end up being able to afford less of a house than we initially wanted to. And the last thing I would say is that we were quite scared to get on the hamster wheel of renting. Now, it's fine to be renting if that's what you want to do. Then it's not a hamster wheel. But for us, we have seen and know people who have tried to buy something, but what ends up happening is rent is so expensive that you end up not really being able to save, and before you know it, you've been renting for 5-10 years when actually all you wanted to do was buy a property. So we were scared of that, and so we were like, let's just get on the ladder, let's just get on. So where am I at now? So as I said, it's 2 years later, just over 2 years later now, and we have actually just completed our remortgage. So we were on a 2-year fixed term deal, and that came to an end. So we had to get on another deal. We could have stayed with the lender that we were with, but we just looked for better deals. So we've switched lenders in order to get on a new fixed term deal. So yeah, that's what we have just done. And in those 2 years, our loan to value went from 95%, which means that the bank had 95% stake in our house in comparison to the value. And it went from 95% to 74% in 2 years. It dropped drastically. That's almost 20% that dropped in 2 years. Now, I don't know about you, but that is so incredible. And that happened for 2 reasons. So the first reason is because it is a repayment mortgage, which means every month when we make our mortgage payments, we are paying interest, but we are also shaving off some of the principal. So that's what we've been doing for the past 2 years, which is what everyone does with a repayment mortgage. And then the other thing was house price growth in those 2 years. So those are the 2 factors that changed our loan to value, dropped it from 95% to 74%. And so that has been pretty incredible because within these 2 years, our house price went up by 22%. But yeah, that has been our experience. And now you can maybe understand why I have a resounding yes to I'm glad we did this, I would do it all over again. But of course, it's just very personal. It won't be the case for everyone. Everyone's situation will be different. There'll be some people whose house value went up more than that in 2 years, and there'll be some people whose value went up a lot less than that in 2 years, or not at all. So it really does just depend on your circumstances. It's not something that will happen to everyone. It's not across the board. It's very, very personal. But I think there's nothing more powerful than sharing your own story, because sometimes all we hear is negativity in terms of 95% mortgages. So I'm really passionate about bringing some positive light because I'm someone who has really hugely benefited from this type of product. So in conclusion, in terms of where we're at today, as I said, we've just done the remortgage and we had two options. First option was to get a new deal with a ridiculously low interest rate because of our new loan to value. And the second option was to get a slightly higher interest rate, but still very low. You know, nothing's like, it's about 2%. So still very, very low, but take out some equity of the house and be able to do things that we want to do. And we decided the second option because right now borrowing is so cheap. I don't know how much longer we'll have these very low interest rates when it comes to mortgages. So it's just about taking advantage of the time right here, right now, because in the future it can change where we don't want to be taking out equity or anything like that, where we really want to get our loan to value lowered. And yeah, it's just a personal decision that suits our life right now. But this is the options that we have been afforded within 2 years just because we decided to do this and not really listen to what some people had to say. So I hope you found this video useful, helpful, insightful. If you have, let me know below in the comments. If you've had a good experience or a bad experience, also let me know below in the comments. I think it's good to get a wide variety of experiences. And, you know, of course, always do your own research before making decisions about your own life. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video real soon.